Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today, as we commemorate the martyrdom of the commander of the faithful, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, afdal salati wa salam alayhi, it's befitting that we choose a topic that speaks on his akhlaq and how he lived his life. Today we're going to be talking about emotional intelligence. If we study the life of Imam Ali, we could see that he is a beacon for how our akhlaq should be. And that is exactly why we chose this topic today.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. Respected brothers and sisters, friends, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As we begin to commemorate the martyrdom of the commander of the faithful, Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, I believe that it is very important to discuss some of his merits, some of his virtues. And many of you, in fact, all the Muslims, have heard of the generosity of Imam Ali, of the knowledge of Imam Ali, of the bravery of Imam Ali. However, today we have decided to discuss a unique topic, a topic that is discussed often today. It's a very popular topic of emotional intelligence. Therefore, we will discuss this topic that I think is very important for the happiness of individuals, for the success of individuals, and try to seek lessons from the life of Al-Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen so that we can incorporate those lessons and stories within our lives.
So today we're going to be talking about a few main points, inshallah. First, we're going to define emotional intelligence, talk about what it is. Then we'll talk about how emotional intelligence and leadership are interlinked. We'll then talk about how we can become emotionally intelligent ourselves, or more emotionally intelligent than what we already are. We'll speak on the foundations of emotional intelligence. We'll speak on the importance of mindfulness and its impact on our life. And then in the end, we'll tie it all together and speak on the akhlaq of Amir al-Mu'mineen and his emotional intelligence. So when we talk about emotional intelligence, obviously that has to do with our feelings, how we carry ourselves, but I know it's a lot more than that. So could you start us off by basically defining what emotional intelligence is?
So in a nutshell, if we want to simplify this whole definition and try to understand it from our perspective, I would say it's to become intelligent in the way we behave, in the way we understand our emotions, in the way we understand the emotion of others.
Right.
And the manner in which we deal with others, and in the way that we conduct ourselves and our relationships, in order to make better decisions, we need emotional intelligence.
Right.
In order to understand ourselves and be self-aware, we need emotional intelligence. In order for us to have successful relationships, we need emotional intelligence. In order for us to be good parents, we need emotional intelligence. To be a good teacher, to be a good politician, all of that requires that we are emotionally aware.
Right. So when we talk about emotional intelligence, we see that it's interlinked with leadership. For example, you see some people, very successful individuals, they're not only intelligent, but in book smarts rather, but they're also emotionally intelligent, and that's the mark of a great leader. So how are those two things interlinked?
Yeah, you see, I believe that once you are a successful person in whatever field you're in, um, whether you're a politician or you're a teacher or you're an athlete or you're a businessman, you're a CEO, whatever you may be, the people that are in your caliber have to be intelligent as well.
Right.
However, what's going to set a very successful person from a successful person, what's going to set a successful person on a mediocre level from a very highly effective person, highly successful person, is their level of emotional intelligence. Meaning, the way that they're going to analyze the behavior of others and themselves and the reaction of others towards them, and make better decisions. For example, if you are a emotionally intelligent businessman, then you would know. Let's say you have two people that have the same resume,
Right.
have the same IQ, and who are you going to end up choosing? Who are you going to end up giving the job to? Hiring for the position. I think that then right there and then you're going to need to have emotional intelligence to tell you that this is the right person for the job.
Right.
Or for example, how you communicate with your employees, how you try to understand your employees, how you try to motivate them, how you try to communicate to them. That all goes back to emotional intelligence. That's going to set your company apart from other companies. That's how, for example, a company like Apple operates. Using emotional intelligence, spending in fact millions of dollars on emotional intelligence of their customers or of their employees, and the way that they make people feel when they are inside their store, the way that people feel when they are using their products, the way they deal with their employees. That's what set Apple apart from BlackBerry, though
Right.
BlackBerry was there many years before them.
Right.
Or if you're a coach, if you're a trainer, if you're somebody who's training people or you're coaching them, you have to understand the through your emotional intelligence, you have to understand and evaluate the emotions of those who you're dealing with.
Right.
For example, if you want to motivate someone, how do you motivate this particular person? If you want to push this person to work harder, how do you do that? What is it that's going to make this person feel better? What is it that's going to make this person feel weak? What is it that's going to make this person try harder? And what is it that's going to make this person fail or give up completely? You're going to have to be able to understand those and apply them differently to different people. You can't just apply the same formula to everybody. An emotionally intelligent politician, for example, is a person who understands, for example, his community and sees why is it that they're angry? Why is it that they hate me? Why is it that they are upset? Why is it that they voted this way? And through that, be able to give solutions to his community. And that is how, highly successful leaders can survive. Same goes for a teacher. Working on the confidence of someone. How is it that this person is going to flourish? Is it if I become friends with this person? Is it if I start doubting this person? How will they react towards fear? How will they react towards lack of respect? How will they react towards hate? How will they react towards joy? All those things are part of our understanding of others so that we can become more successful in our journey with them.
Right.
If you're a father, if you're a teacher, you're a coach, you're a politician, or every person in society, you are definitely in need of emotional intelligence. And that's what's going to set people apart from each other. Studies show that people with the same exact scores in high school, people with the same exact IQ in high school, in their 20th reunion or 10th reunion, some of them were just very ordinary people, happened to be very ordinary people, and some of them happened to be the most successful people. at least in their school, or some of them in their city.
Mhm.
And when they went back to those individuals and re-examined them and reanalyzed them, they realized what set the successful person, who just happened to be probably somebody that's averagely successful,
Right.
or successful on an average compared to other people around them, but a highly successful person was their emotional intelligence, the way they were able to understand others, understand relationships, understand themselves, motivate others, work as a team, and that's what emotional intelligence is all about.
Yeah, that's a good way to summarize it and basically draw on how the best leaders and most successful people use emotional intelligence as a tool for their success. So after we talk about that, what can we do as individuals? You know, some people may not be fit for leadership roles or things of that nature, but still, I'm sure we can. Every one of us could draw some knowledge from emotional intelligence and see where we can improve in our lives. How could we start to do that?
Well, I think that you would have to first understand the very foundations of emotional intelligence, the very basis of the emotional intelligence, and you know, I from what I have understood and from what I gather,
Mhm.
is that emotional intelligence has several main foundations.
Right.
The very first one, the most important one, is self-awareness.
Mhm.
For you to have an understanding of yourself, for you to, and we'll talk about this later, but just to sum it up, for you to understand how you feel, why is it that you feel this way?
Mhm.
What has led you to, for example, be in such a state of pain or anger or emotion, or why are you, for example, an emotional wreck,
So kind of like reflecting.
depression? So you have to understand the feeling. You have to first be able to identify whether this is sadness or whether this is anger.
Mhm.
And then you have to understand what is the cause of this and how long does it stay with you. For example, if you see other people becoming successful, that are the same age, had the same opportunities, you grew up together. Now one of them is ending. One of your friends is a millionaire now, or he's somebody who's considered very successful, and you're not. It's normal for people to feel that they're missing out on something, or they feel jealousy, or they feel like I need to basically step up my game.
Mhm.
Those are normal feelings, but how long does the feeling last, and what does it make you do? If it's only making you angry,
Mhm.
if it's not pushing you to try harder, to be innovative yourself, to aim for success for yourself, but if it's driving you to go after that person
Right.
and to take away his success and to go around saying, you know what, this guy just had it made, and try to defame that person.
Being a hater, kind of.
Exactly. That is a ridiculous way of reacting to your emotions. So you have to understand, why is it that I'm reacting this way?
Right.
Number two is self-management of your emotions. Like I said, if you have jealousy, if you self-manage it, it's going to cause you success. But if you let it, take the best of you, then you're going to go after that guy, try to take him down, and you're never going to be successful.
Right.
Or, for example, if you have a competitive nature.
Right.
If you have a competitive nature, the same thing applies. If you feel hate towards people who have wronged you, if that stays in you for a very long time, it's going to self-destruct you.
Right.
It's not going to give you success. It's not going to change anything in the situation. You have to
Mhm.
understand that, if something has gone wrong, how is it that you're going to change the situation to your advantage? So managing your anger, managing your sadness, managing your joy. Sometimes with joy, some people will become lazy,
Mhm.
and some people with joy will become proactive. So you have to be able to manage your emotions to your advantage. Number three is empathy.
Mhm.
How you understand other people's emotions. Why is it that this person feels this way towards me? And being able to understand why people feel angry or sad or heartbroken or disappointed with certain things that we do. And I'll give you a very common example. I'm sure everybody here has felt in a certain time or often that people will tell you, oh, you know, you wronged me, you broke my heart, or you lied to me, or you hurt me, whatever, you know, all those things that are negative. And you're thinking to yourself, how did I do that? You know, I cannot understand how is this possible. In fact, if anything, I expected this person, for example, to praise me, to thank me, to say the exact opposite of what they've just said. So there's two cases here. One is that I do not understand this person well.
Right.
And number two is this person does not understand me well. So it is the lack of this person's understanding of me that makes them say those things.
Mm-hmm.
Or it is my understanding, my lack of understanding of this person that I've communicated the wrong things to them. Now, if you're stuck in such situations, then you're going to need to look up emotional intelligence. You must get yourself more emotionally intelligent. You must start being able to look for clues and try to understand people. For example, a book that is a bestseller, amazing book, 5 Languages of Love, or something like that. 5, yeah, I think so. I think it's the 5 love languages or something like that, something along those lines. That I summarized and I actually gave a lecture on. Tells you that every person has a different love language.
Right.
And that is how you have to have emotional intelligence to differentiate between them. Differentiate between those 5. For example, some, it is to give them words of affirmation.
Right.
So, and for others, it's giving them gifts.
Mm-hmm.
For others, it's like helping them and assisting them. For others, it's a quality time.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember those 5 languages, but now a smart person, an emotionally intelligent person, is the one who is able to differentiate between those two and see which one it is that I need to communicate with this person. And last is having skilled relationships. Emotional intelligence will teach you to have skilled relationships. So once you understand yourself, once you understand your emotions, where they came from, how can you control them, how can you manage them, and then you understand the emotions of others, then you are able to create relationships based on a better understanding of yourself and others, and they will definitely be successful relationships. I think that is how people can get started on becoming more emotionally intelligent.
Right. Where did researchers get this from? I mean, like, where is what are the foundations of emotional intelligence, and how can researchers basically sum all this up and tell us this is emotional intelligence, this is how to live your life better? In your opinion, what are the foundations of emotional intelligence?
Well, the foundations of emotional intelligence I just discussed right now.
Sorry.
But I believe that once it comes to research, the research of those topics, I think that it starts with people being studied and examined, and then conclusions are drawn. For example, people who meditate and people who don't meditate.
Mm-hmm.
If they're studied for 10 years or 5 years, people who, for example, reflect on their emotions and the emotions of others, compared to people who are clueless on the topic, those people are put next to each other, and then they try to study them and try to study their behavior, and what is it that makes them happy, what is it that's caused their success, and what is it that has caused the success, the failure of others. You see successful people sometimes are angry, sometimes successful people are toxic, Sometimes successful people are not able to control their emotions. But people who are just chill, I guess it's not as bad for them because look, I mean, once you have so many responsibilities, once you expect so much of yourself, then you're going to judge yourself differently than somebody who is just always content with their situation, with where they are in life. So that those things are going to set those individuals apart.
Right.
Now, an emotionally intelligent person is the person who is able to understand those emotions and work them to their advantage, and that's what emotional intelligence teaches us. For example, if you keep yourself on high standards, very high standards, and if you fail yourself, then you're constantly going to shame yourself. Oh, I'm not good enough. I didn't do well. I wish I tried harder. Versus somebody who's chill is gonna be like, that's it. I'm doing whatever I want. I have this very simple life, and I'm content with it. The rest of the time, you find them just enjoying themselves and being happy. And I'm not saying that is okay, by the way,
Right.
for you to just waste your life by being content with something that is mediocre, something that is small. However, for the successful person, now in order to remove all those toxic habits or feelings or emotions, you're going to have to reflect on yourself. For you not to shame yourself, for you not to hate yourself, for you not to be disappointed in yourself, for you not to feel that you failed yourself and others, you're going to have to be able to reflect. You're going to have to be able to be more self-aware.
Yeah, so from what I've understood, it seems that mindfulness is a core of emotional intelligence. It's a pillar of emotional intelligence. What is the impact of mindfulness on our personal lives, our relationships, how we carry ourselves, so on and so forth?
Yeah, I feel that when it comes to your happiness, you have to understand that you are responsible for your own happiness. Others are not responsible for your happiness. You may start blaming others. Why is this person not making me happy? Why is this person making me angry? Why did this person make me feel miserable? Or your happiness is not going to be caused by other people. It's not going to be caused by your significant other. It's not going to be caused by your friends or your employees or whatever it is. It's going to be caused by yourself, because you can be with that person who you thought is going to make you really happy.
Right.
But after a while, or after a special circumstance, you realize, no, it's gone. That happiness is gone. It was temporary. Or if I buy this car, then I'm going to feel very happy. Or if I, for example, end up at this job, I'm going to be very happy. If I live in this neighborhood, I'm going to be very happy. That's all temporary. That will not last. Especially with how people are today, how people are so artificial, how, I can even use the word fake. A lot of people will be fake with you, the way they deal with you, the way they get close to you, the way they behave towards you. It really takes a very long time for you to understand if those people are truly who they are.
Right.
Are they truly loyal? Do they truly appreciate who you are and what you're doing? Do they have any hidden agendas? And I think that it takes a long time. Why? Because you have to understand them when they're happy. You have to understand them when they're sad. You have to understand them when they're angry. You have to understand them when they're financially doing well. You have to understand them when they're not doing so well. So in the end of the day, the conclusion that I have to draw is you are responsible for your own happiness.
Right.
At the end of the day, you can make yourself happy. You can decide to make yourself happy or not. And that all goes back to mindfulness. So let me explain mindfulness briefly. Mindfulness is being able to identify who you are. For example, a study showed, I read this, that a study showed someone asked his clients or those who were participating in his class on mindfulness
Right.
to close their eyes, to think a little bit, and then when they opened their eyes, they would ask the person sitting next to them, "Who are you?"
Mhm.
And this person would, start introducing themselves. "Oh, I'm John. I'm 25 years old. I come from this city. This is what I do for a living." And maybe if they were like, trying extra hard, they would say, "Oh, those are my hobbies." So he would say, "Close your eyes again, open them, and ask the same question." So the second time, people were uh, uh, getting a little more detailed.
Mhm.
I come from a broken family. I just broke up with my girlfriend. I have 4 kids. I have, massive credit card debts. Or I'm somebody who gets angry a lot. I am somebody who is happy. I am somebody who's, and then it would stop there. And
Mhm.
obviously, this guy says that that's not who you are. That's part of who you are. That's some of who you are, but
Right.
that's very little. That's the exterior of who you are. The interior, you only know it.
Mhm.
Now, this person says, "I did not ask them to do that the third time because if I did, a lot of them don't even know what's the inside of them like.
Mhm.
So they wouldn't be. They'd be like, okay, we introduced ourselves twice. We don't know what else to say." So
Right.
mindfulness is for you to be able to understand what is inside of you.
I see.
What is not in the exterior, what
Mhm.
you know of yourself. And that is the only way that you are able to actually have successful relationships.
Mhm.
That is why we have a hadith that says, "Man arafa nafsah faqad arafa rabbah." Whoever knows himself,
Mhm.
whoever understands the inside of himself, is able to then understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To have a relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To build this relationship based on success.
Right.
Now, if you don't know yourself, then you cannot have successful relationships because you don't know what it is that's causing all those emotions within you. For you to act this way, for you to say the things that you say. Sometimes we human beings can, to the dearest people to us, we can say the most hurtful things.
Right.
And literally think, "Oh, it's okay. This person needs to hear it." And I always feel that's part of being an unmindful person.
Mhm.
Because you have to understand when to say it, how to say it. And if you've done something 200 times and it hasn't worked, don't do it again. Find another way. That is
Right.
being an emotionally intelligent person. And an emotionally unintelligent person is the person who tries to push their way into you more than 1,000 times for 10 years straight. And that's how marriages fail. That's how people distance themselves from their parents and what have you. So let's get back to mindfulness. Mindfulness is for you to understand the essence of who you are.
Right.
And some of the most important feelings and desires that you have. And to understand them, not to be afraid of them, not to run away from them. So, for example, let's come to a very powerful feeling, such as shame, or such as guilt,
Mhm.
or such as self-hate.
Right.
Those exist in many people. And you have to understand, how did that shame begin? How did it end up in you? How did this self-hate or guilt end up in you?
Mhm.
And then what is it doing? So it's telling you that you don't enjoy, you don't deserve a better life, you don't deserve to enjoy life, you don't deserve to be successful, you don't deserve anything good. You start hating yourself. You start being so ashamed of yourself. And this happens to many people who have committed crime or war veterans.
Right.
In fact, this is, war, people don't die in wars.
Mhm.
Most soldiers in America don't end up dying in the
In
battlefield.
combat. Yeah.
They don't end up dying in combat. They end up dying when they come home.
Right.
Why? Because they commit suicide. They are ashamed of themselves.
Mhm.
They cannot tolerate what they have done. So they end up committing suicide, or they end up hating themselves for the rest of their lives. such feelings, you have to understand where they came from and how is it that you are able to control them. And that is part of self-awareness. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala discusses this in the Holy Quran. And He introduces this topic as the topic of khushu'. Khushu' is being mindful of yourself and your situation.
Yeah.
Understanding it. That is khushu'. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala discusses this, mentions that the word khushu' or the terminology khushu' 15 times in the Holy Quran. And that is a state of self-awareness, when your heart is enlightened, when your heart is aware. So if you were to be translating passages from the Holy Quran, khushu' is, always translated into humility.
Right.
But it is not. Sometimes it's, enlightenment, sometimes it's humility, sometimes it's mindfulness.
Right.
You have to understand the context of how the Quran is using it. But all of that speaks of the state of khushu'. And that is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, the salah is accepted once there's khushu'. Once you understand yourself, once you understand your situation, once you're able to focus.
Yeah.
Focusing is one of the, I would say, most important practices of self-awareness or emotional intelligence, for you to be able to focus.
Yeah.
That is the key to success. If you're not able to focus, then, like for example, studies show that 47% of the times when you're supposed to be focused on something, your mind wanders elsewhere. 47% of the time.
Yeah.
Half of the time, your mind is somewhere else. But if you're able to get your mind to focus at that moment, then you are able to be successful in paying attention to that particular issue. So that is the concept of khushu'.
Yeah.
That is mentioned in the religion of Islam. Being able to focus, being able to think, and being able to be self-aware at the same time. And Allah says you need this in salah. If you have this in salah, if you're able to focus completely, away from all sorts of distractions, then you will be achieving great things in life.
Yeah, that's difficult. The khushu' during prayer, when we start our salah, we start thinking of what we have to do for the day, or did I keep the stove on? Your mind just wanders sometimes, and even if you have to repeat your salah, maybe if you feel like you're not completely focused, you should try to do that. Obviously, khushu', there is no other better example of khushu' than Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. Can we talk about how Amir al-Mu'mineen lived his life and his emotional intelligence, how his akhlaq were?
Yeah, obviously, we know that we have two types of jihad in Islam, struggles. One that is a jihad al-akbar and one that is a jihad al-asghar. Al-jihad al-asghar is the physical battlefield, where obviously Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen was the commander-in-chief of the army of Rasulullah. He single-handedly won the battles of Rasulullah. He is the one that is praised by Jibreel, La fata illa Ali, la sayf illa dhul fuqan. But this was his minor jihad. His major jihad, as Rasulullah explains to his companions, the major jihad of all Muslims is their inner struggle. And Amir al-Mu'mineen was able to win this battlefield so successfully. Traditions indicate that when he became the Khalifa, the most powerful man, and he would sometimes go to the treasury, and he would see that there are mountains of gold and silver in the treasury, and he could do whatever he wants with them. In fact, people before him and after him did so.
Right.
They gave to the Arabs more than the non-Arabs. They gave to their family more than others. So they decided what they wanted to do with that money. But Amir al-Mu'mineen, to his own brother Aqil, he gave him exactly what he would give a black Abyssinian slave.
Right.
So he gave everybody equally. And traditions indicate that once he was seen and witnessed in the midst of the gold and silver, and he would say, Ya Safra wa Ya Bayda. He wouldn't even call the gold. He would say, oh yellow. And he would not call the silver silver. He would say, oh white, because gold and silver were something else to Imam Ali. Gold was the obedience of Allah. Gold was the rahmah of Allah. Gold was when he was able to make Allah happy. Gold one was, like for example, Amir al-Mu'mineen says, if silence, if you were to speak, that is, good. But if you were to remain silent, that is golden. Meaning, don't speak as if you're not required to speak. Try to listen more often. So a lot of merits for Amir al-Mu'mineen were considered gold. A lot of things that he could have done to become a better person was considered gold. So he says, Ya Safra, wa Ya Bayda, ghurri ghayr. Now here's a person who's talking to himself, who's speaking to himself. Seduce someone besides me. Seduce someone else, not me. غري غيري أبي تحرضتي أبي تشوقتي لا حان حينك قد طلقتك ثلاثا لا رجعة فيك. Are you trying to seduce me? Are you trying to beautify yourself to me? I have divorced you and I will never go back to you. Meaning Imam Ali never saw gold and silver as something seductive to him. So he was able to self-manage himself. He was able to be in that state of khushu'. Or for example, it reminds me of a story of Amir al-Mu'mineen, where there was an arrow that went in his leg.
Right.
And they could not take out the arrow. And the doctor said, Imam Hassan actually told him that the best time for you to take out the arrow from his leg is when he is in salah. When he's in salah, he won't feel anything. He's so focused with Allah, he won't even feel the pain of the arrow coming out of his leg. And historians write that, when Imam Ali was praying his night prayers, and he was in that state of communicating with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they took out the arrow and he did not feel it. Subhanallah, the Salman once went to Fatima al-Zahra. He says, Kumail went to Fatima al-Zahra in the middle of the night, and he says, I went with Imam Ali to the deserts. And he began to pray, and he began to supplicate, and he began to cry and weep so much out of the love that he has for Allah, out of the fear that he has from Allah, until he passed away, until he passed out. I went close to him, and I realized Ali's dead. I tried to wake him up, and nothing, Ali's dead. So Fatima says, no, he's not. This is what happens to Amir al-Mu'mineen every night. Imagine someone who fatigues himself in his entire existence during the day for the sake of Allah. Whether it's jihad, whether it's serving the Prophet, whether it's serving the needy, that he would carry weight on his back. And he would go to those who were, hated him.
Right.
And to their orphans and to their children. And he would give them from, Bayt al-Mal, and he would give them from his own wealth and what he had. And then doing all of that, spending time with your companions and all those things, and Amir al-Mu'mineen dug wells, Amir al-Mu'mineen worked on farms, Amir al-Mu'mineen helped people, and at night you're standing there in front of Allah doing Salatul Layl and weeping and crying. Obviously, when you pass out, you passed out. When you pass out, you're gonna look like a dead person. This is somebody who's productive. This is somebody who left this legacy behind. And Amir al-Mu'mineen calls on to us and he says, if you can't be that, then at least resemble me in your mannerism, in the way you act, in the way you behave. And like you said, he's an emotionally not intelligent but genius that left such a legacy. Look at the way he dealt with his enemies. Look at the way that he dealt with his friends. Look at his loyal companions. Amir al-Mu'mineen had companions that were so loyal to him that yes, it's true that Imam Hussein had 72 of them, and he said, I have never seen or witnessed companions, and by that he means from the time of Adam until the end of time, as loyal as you and what have you. However, Imam Ali didn't have 72. Imam Ali, he had the few like Miqdad, like Maytham. Maytham al-Tammar, how can you explain the loyalty, the love, the way that he felt for Amir al-Mu'mineen? This was because Amir al-Mu'mineen was able to understand them. You know, when Amir al-Mu'mineen went to buy Maytham from the slavery market, he was worthless, literally. He asked him, do you know how to do anything? He says, I know how to sell dates. He says, do you have any other trade that you know? Do you know? He says, no, I only know how to sell dates. And Amir al-Mu'mineen gave a lot of money for Maytham. And his companions said to him, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, you could have gotten 10 slaves with that money. He says, I know something you don't know about this guy. He was able to pick that up. He was able to understand it. Same thing for Kumayl. Same thing for the rest of his companions. So he was able to have that, relationship with his companions. The way that he was able to communicate with his enemies. For example, how he communicated with Amr ibn Wud on the day of Khandaq. How he communicated on the day of Badr to his enemies. How he communicated at Uhud. How he made people feel when they heard the name of Ali ibn Abi Talib on the battlefield. Same thing how he made people feel when they heard Amir al-Mu'mineen, the orphans. They heard his name. They felt compassion. They felt mercy. They felt rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the legacy that we have from Imam Ali. A man with khushu', a man with emotional genius, a man that we will be commemorating for the next 3 nights. But from here, and at this point, before we conclude, we say to him, Assalamu alayka ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. Assalamu alayka ya Qa'id al-Ghurr al-Muhajjalin. Assalamu alayka ya Asad Allah al-Ghalib. Assalamu alayka wa ala ruhika wa badanik. Assalamu alayka wa ala al-bid'at al-tahira, Fatimat al-Zahra. Assalamu alayka wa ala ibn ammika wa akhik Amir al-Mu'mineen. Rasulullah. Assalamu alayka وعلى ولديك الحسن والحسين والأئمة من ذريتك يا سيدي ويا مولاي إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله. We are in a tough situation. We ask Allah in the name of Imam Ali, in his blessed name, in his sacred name, Ya wajihan عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله.
Thank you so much, Sayyid, for your wonderful talk today. I learned a lot myself. I hope our viewers enjoyed the talk. Just to leave everyone with one last note, what I know about the story about when Imam Ali was struck on the head. What was that quote? The famous quote. What did he say when?
Of course, when he was struck with the sword, he said, "Fustu wa Rabbil Kaaba."
Right.
I have become victorious by the Lord of the Kaaba. Meaning, I had a life of success.
Wow.
I am happy and content with my life. Nobody really is able to say that besides this man. That he ended his life saying that I am completely. I have conquered victory.
Yeah, mashallah. Thank you so much, Sayyid. Thank you to all of our viewers. I really appreciate you guys. We want to both thank you for your positive feedback, for your support.